believe Marxism to be the greatest evil released on the earth. I believe it is in the book of Revelation as one of the two beasts. I'm not going to tell you what the other one is if you can't figure it out. But just like in the book of Revelation, one of those beasts is given its power and authority to the other beast. And that beast is Marxism. And it became more devious and more deadly when it came back. It can do so again. We've got to have the resolve that Joshua had at Ai. When, remember, he held out the spear and Israel prevailed against that little city, and every time he withdrew the spear, the enemy prevailed against Israel. And he learned, I've got to hold it out until the enemy is totally destroyed. We've got to go after Marxism with that kind of resolve. It's got to be rooted out of our country, rooted out of our education. In many cases, it's got to be cast out. But I tell you, we've got to continue this war and not let up with what produced the madness that came over our country over the last 4 years. The insanity and the evil. And I believe the biggest war against Marxism is yet to come. And it's going to be a hot war. Now, not just another Cold War. Now, that's my belief because that's where we're headed. I believe that can be changed by prayer and intercession. I believe China can be unraveled just like the Iron Curtain was. The CCP has got to go. We cannot coexist with the Chinese Communist Party. That is not possible. We are headed for collision, and there's going to be a collision. But I believe there are also great people in China, enlightened people, and there is the possibility that that thing could come down like the Iron Curtain did. And but if all these things come down, what's going to fill the void? Didn't the Lord say if you cast a demon out and you don't fill that place, what's going to happen? 7 more, even more evil are going to come in. And that's what we've seen over and over in history. That's what the church has seen over and over. It works for principalities and geopolitics just like it works with people. If you displace a principality over an area or a region and you don't replace it with what is good and true, the kingdom of God, then it is going to come back and be a bigger disaster than before. But guess what? We're at the place now. We have no choice but to do this fight. And it doesn't matter how many. I appreciate having a commander-in-chief now that has the resolve, the courage, and who is not going to quit. I mean, if anyone should have quit, all that came upon him, and he just kept on fight, fight, fight. We're not stopping. And we're going to have that too. But if he can have it to deal with these political issues, how much more do we need to have it for whatever the Lord gives us? And I believe he's going to be given different tribes of Christians, if you will, particular enemies to go after, particular strongholds. And I already know 2 that we were assigned. Morning Star has been assigned. I trust there are others that were assigned the same too. But we know these are our enemy. We cannot quit until that enemy is destroyed out of here. Okay? Because it's going to keep coming back on us if we don't do this. Alexander the Great said he would rather fight an army of lions led by a lamb than an army of lambs led by a lion. Leadership is that important. That may be a little bit of a, but guess what? We've got a lion who's leading our army. He came as a lamb the first time. He's not coming back as a lamb. He's coming back as the lion. And one of the things that I was shown for this year is that we're going to hear the lion's roar. And it's not if the bleeping or whatever of a sheep. And guess what? A lot of Christians, a lot of people think that somebody's a good Christian if they're a nice guy, if they're really nice people. I think there is going to be, like was prophesied over 25 years ago, a new definition of Christianity and of Christians. You're going to see the lion that Jesus is emerge and come out in his people. Those who are really joined to him, he's not coming back as the lamb. It doesn't mean we're mean, doesn't mean we do evil things to people, but I believe we're going to have the courage, the boldness, the strength, the power of the lion manifested. Okay? That's the new breed of leadership that's coming. The Lord is not sending lambs to lead anymore. And you're going to see lambs that couldn't take a stand, that did their best to hide even their own political persuasions, were afraid to speak from their pulpit the truth that needed to be spoken all over our country. Those guys are going to disappear really soon because the people are not going to trust them and follow them any longer. Okay? And I was a part of the Pulpit Freedom Committee. Any of you guys a part of that? Where once a year we would preach a sermon that violated the 501c3 laws. And we try to violate as many as we could in one sermon. And then send a copy of the sermon to the IRS and say, come get me. You know why they never came? They knew what they were doing was unconstitutional. Tested in court, it would have never stood up. Couldn't have stood up. Now, it may have stood up the first trial or whatever. Sometimes you have to appeal. You have to go to somewhere where they believe in the Constitution. But those laws were totally unconstitutional. Why didn't the whole church speak out? They would have gone away quick. That was one of the first things that I remember when I met with Trump right after he had won the nomination but hadn't become president yet. But he said, man, some bum out on the street has more freedom than you preachers have. He can say anything he wants and nobody's going to bother him. Why can't you speak out about the evil and the unconstitutional things that are being done to you and have been done? Those laws were written to throttle and silence the church. And they worked to so many people. No one ever lost their tax-exempt status as a church because they violated 501c3. Do you know that? Now, they may have violated some other things, and there are a lot of things in that law that are good and should be done. There are a lot of IRS regulations that make you do things right. But the ones that are not constitutional, that take away our constitutional rights, we've got to stand against that. It's the Constitution that is the supreme law of the land, not the Supreme Court, not the lawyers, not the Congress, the White House. It's the Constitution. If it violates that, we've got to fight. We've got to take a stand. But we're not just fighting for ourselves. We've got to fight for the truth. We've got to fight for what's right. We've got to have the courage to have people get outraged, scream at us, do whatever. And I'm not saying we should do that back. We shouldn't. We should have the personal constitution within us that we don't have to react in the flesh like they may be doing. We don't want to do that. But we've got to take a stand and we've got to speak out. There is a new breed of leader coming. And they're going to be lions. I'm just saying.